Hello, I'm Ann Gritch, and I'm delighted to welcome you to this segment of the oral history of the Diocese of San Jose. And with me today is Joe Bauer, who has grown up and is a long time minister in the diocese. I've known Joe since I started to work in the diocese in 1987, and he predates me. So I'm delighted that you're here, Joe.
I appreciate the offer.
Right.
I appreciate being here.
Great. So tell us a little bit about your background. You grew up in the Archdiocese of San Francisco, is that right?
We were under the Archdiocese.
Right.
I grew up at St. Justin's. In 1951, when St. Justin's was formed under Father Ronald Mantassi at the time. My mom and dad were, part of the original group that started the parish. It didn't start in the property we have now. It started in a stable over on what is now Scott Boulevard. And so, from the very beginning of St. Justin's, I was part of that parish community.
That's terrific.
58, they opened a school. I was in the first class to go through the school. So,
Wow.
So I've had plenty of roots at St. Justin's from the very beginning.
Wow.
So. Graduated from St. Justin's in '66 and went to Midi High School.
Which was fairly new at that time, wasn't it?
Yeah, we were the third class. So when I was a freshman, we didn't even have a senior class, which was painful, especially when it came to sports.
Yes, I can imagine.
Yeah,
yes.
we lost everything. So.
But it got better.
But my involvement at St. Justin's and my involvement at Midi is what really drove me into ministry in the church. The priests, I had many priests that were close friends of mine. Probably the Monsignor Mantassi, was one person that I admired a lot. You loved him or hated him, and I happened to love him. So, and then we had a whole slew of great associates that came through. Michael Keene, Father Dan Derry, Father Terry Sullivan, Merv Sullivan, and on, Leo Rooney. And I had the chance to work with, many of them. Dan Derry and I are still very close friends.
That's great.
In the high school years at St. Justin's, I was involved in the teen club. He was the priest moderator. I went to Midi. He was a Bellarmine boy, so we used to fight like cats and dogs.
Sure.
But, great friendships were formed. His second cousin was Father Jack Russi, who was the chaplain at, Marianist chaplain at Midi. St. Justin's, I was involved with CYO, the CYO Teen Club and all that. At Midi High School, I got involved in the retreat program at Midi with Father Jack Russi. And the two of those experiences sort of blended together. I graduated from Midi in '70. Because of my involvement with CYO, I got hooked into the Santa Clara CYO office. Larry Donatoni was the director at the time under Father Pete Armstrong.
Oh, yes.
None of these guys were Monsignors yet, So. During the summer of my that year, they invited me to work at CYO summer camp up in Occidental, and during that summer, I actually met Father Pete Armstrong, had many conversations with him. He was, famous for the Search for Christian Maturity, a high school teen retreat program that I had never been a part of. I was at Midi and working with Father Jack Russi in the retreats that we did there. Well, by the end of the summer, Father Pete Armstrong asked me if I'd be interested in working with the Search program, in a paid position. And so,
wow, just like the big kids.
Yeah, so I became the search coordinator for Santa Clara County.
Was that fun?
It was fun, yeah. I went on a search weekend though, and I didn't like it.
Oh dear.
Yeah. So, and being an arrogant teenager that I was, I had no thought in my mind that I was going to be working for the church for 48 years. I rode my motorcycle up to San Francisco and quit, and told Father Pete Armstrong the reasons that I really didn't like the retreat weekend that I had been a part of, and. 2 weeks later, he called me up, asked to meet with me, and made me the director for the whole program. So, at 18, 19 years of age, I was already involved in a pretty substantial leadership position.
Oh, I'd say. And this is still when we were part of the Archdiocese.
Archdiocese of San Francisco. So I moved from Santa Clara County up to Daly City and worked out of the San Francisco CYO office, and I did that for a number of years until they asked me to move up to Marin County where I became the director of youth and young adult ministry and CYO for Marin County. And that's when Father Mike Harriman, another close friend of mine, came on board with CYO full time, and we sort of switched. He came to San Francisco, I went to Marin. So. And then a few years later, the board of directors for Santa Clara CYO contacted me through Father Pete Armstrong and asked if I would consider moving back down to Santa Clara County, which I did. That's when I really became pretty close friends with Sister Marcella Fabing, because the two of us were here. Our offices were at St. Joseph's College, not in the front, but in the back.
Yes, I remember you drove around.
Yeah, to the old convent in the back there, and we had our offices back there. And worked Santa Clara County. I mean, that's what we were doing, the two of us, in different ways. But I was promoting youth ministry and teen clubs and retreats and things like that. She was doing the catechetical. I think it was still CCD, actually.
I think it was, yeah. And it certainly wasn't religious education.
Not yet.
That's a fairly new term.
Yeah, so.
So tell me, where were you then, January 1981, when the announcement was made?
I was home in bed, sleeping, and I got a call from a friend that heard the news at 5 in the morning that we became the diocese, and he called me, and I got out of bed and screamed. I said, it's something we had been hoping for, and think it was going to happen at some point. I mean, it was just Santa Clara County, it wasn't painful to be part of the Archdiocese. I mean, it was nice, it was good, but we were so far removed from many things that were going on, in the regional church, the Archdiocese, and so, and it was very exciting.
Well, and Santa Clara County really was doing some wonderful things.
Oh,
too.
yeah, no, it was a great place to be, great place to work. I remember my first meeting with Father Mike Mitchell.
Yes.
When he came down and started talking out, the Chancery office being right there. I remember my very first meeting with Bishop Pierre Dumaine. I walked in the room, and he was looking at his notes, and looks up at me and says, "Giuseppe, you have more seniority than me." I mean, I had, I'd been
there, yeah,
for quite a few years, and so. And that was the moment he asked me to stay on as the director of youth and young adult ministry in CYO.
Now, had you known him before?
I had met him, I'd met him, through the superintendent of school position that he had in the Archdiocese. Sure. Within the Archdiocesan structure, I had, relationship to some extent with McGuckin, Archbishop McGuckin, but much more so with Quinn.
Yeah.
And who was an amazing man.
Oh,
and
it's
then,
a real loss.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. And then, I remember when Bishop Dumaine was made bishop, and how impressed I was with him all the time. That was the main thing that I remember about him, is that he was just so smart, so articulate.
So articulate, and a quick wit.
Oh yeah, and that was fun. Yeah. You knew if he said something wrong, because he got a little red back here.
It would start up, and the jaw would be a little.
But an amazing man. And I thoroughly enjoyed, the years that I worked with him.
I think he was the perfect person for the first bishop of San Jose, because he really set a wonderful tone.
And he allowed things to transpire, to take place. Yeah, I mean. I remember very vividly, St. Joseph's College, the college part of it, where I watched a bunch of the baby, almost wannabe priests, being formed. And one is my pastor now, Chris Bransfield.
Yep.
Father Chris was a seminarian when our offices were there.
I remember.
I remind him of that often.
And Father Gerardo Menchaca.
Right. And but we had such great camaraderie there.
Oh, it was wonderful.
The fact that we weren't close to anything, so they offered us lunch right there in the cafeteria was wonderful.
So I remember we'd eat at noon, and the seminarians would come in at 12:30.
Yeah.
And of course, we'd still be there.
Right.
So you really had a chance to mingle and get to know them. It was wonderful.
No, it was
and
great
Jerry
years.
Coleman was the rector.
Well, the deal that I made with not the Archbishop, Bishop Dumaine, was that I really wanted to get my college degree.
Oh yeah.
As I stated earlier, I started working within the Archdiocesan structure, right after high school,
school,
basically. And I was taking college classes here and there, but very haphazardly. And at one point, I decided that I really want my degree.
Sure.
Well, between him, Father Jerry Brown, and Jerry Coleman, they accepted me into St. Joseph's College.
Perfect.
I was married at the time, but
So?
it was, my office was there. I'd walk across the
great.
courtyard and I'd go to school. Teachers would come into my office to tell me the good news and the bad news about my grades. So it was a great experience. But the fact that we could sit together at lunch in Bishop Dumaine, Father Mike Mitchell,
They would just
Joe
come
Milani.
in with their trays.
Oh yeah, and it was, no upmanship there at all. It was just, we were all working in this together. So.
Yeah, it really was. And Sister Claude would be there.
Sister Claude and I shared a wall.
Did you?
My office was the next room
That's
over
right,
from
I
her.
remember downstairs, yes.
So,
And Sister Patricia Murray was upstairs with us.
that's right. Father Joe Milani used to walk the halls daily, checking in on all of us, and we figured that's what he's paid to do, so make sure that we're all okay. So.
Yeah.
But no, those were great years.
Yeah, we just did a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you stayed in the diocesan offices until 1987?
87, I decided that more or less I was tired of the kind of work that I was doing at the time.
In terms of administration?
Yeah, no, administration, board meetings, and really, I refer to it as hit and run work. I was not ever really a part of a community. We were doing the youth ministry training stuff. We were doing retreats. We'd go out and work with the parish, for a while and then walk away and pray that they would keep it going, And I just needed to finally get to a point where I was working within a community more regularly, and ongoing kind of thing. I spent 2 years after I left the diocese at St. Mary's in Los Gatos, which was great.
Under Father Hoffman.
Yeah, with Father Speed Hoffman, and they had just built the brand new parish center, so I was hired into a brand new office that nobody had used before.
Pretty big time.
Yeah, so it was fun.
And you were doing youth ministry?
I was doing
there.
youth ministry at the time, youth and young adult work, and then they also saddled me with a few other projects.
Oh, sure.
Facilities similar to what I do now at St. Justin's, or did now. And then also the Renew program was just coming into being within the archdiocese, or the diocese, and they had asked me to coordinate the Renew program at St. Mary's. But then there was, some financial questions that came to be, and then also at the same time, St. Justin's was looking for youth and young adult ministry person. And the thought of going home, which is how I refer to it, I couldn't pass it up, and so I did. In '89, I walked into St. Justin's under Father Leo Rooney.
Yes.
Father Joe Galang was there at the time as the associate, and Ruth Dunn was the pastoral associate at the time. So, I walked into that, and what was a very strong team concept. I mean, there was a number of us on the staff that had different roles, but we all were working very closely together. Over the years, that staff has dwindled as far as numbers, but it's still that way today.
Well, St. Justin has always been known as just a very alive parish. I can remember when the catechumenate first got started.
Sure.
It started around the dining room table at St. John Vianney with Terry Sullivan, but then the group would meet every month at St. Justin.
No.
And a lot of good things. Ruth Spencer was involved.
Oh yeah, Ruth.
Remember?
Yeah, sure. So, and I have always felt, that Monsignor Metasti, established some very strong groundwork in that place. There were certainly decisions he made at the time that are still in effect today.
That's quite a tribute.
Yeah, and it's been great. I don't know where the time has gone. I've been there over, 27, 28 years now.
Isn't it amazing? And you just wonder.
Yeah, and it's just flown by. And, even though I'm retired, I'm still planning to be a professional volunteer there. And, there is thoughts about me coming back, a couple days a week after I've gone through the 6-month sabbatical.
Right.
And there are projects that, they still would like me to watch over, which is fine. I would enjoy doing it, so.
What differences, you've already alluded to one, differences between ministry at the diocesan level and ministry at the parish level?
Yeah, at the diocese, I thoroughly enjoyed it, especially the youth ministry leadership formation that we were doing at the time, and even more so the retreats. Father Bob Leger and I, go way back as far as 8th grade retreats when he was the associate at Our Lady of Mount Carmel in Marin County, but that's what I was doing a lot of. I would go for weeks without ever coming home. I would be up in Occidental doing, I could do 3-4 retreats in a row, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and on like that. And, at that point, we were training young people to be team members on retreats, doing the retreats, and then, providing follow-up to the retreat. We wouldn't do a retreat for any parish that, wasn't guaranteeing that there would be some follow-up back at home.
Very wise.
Yeah. And then the leadership formation, it was the same kind of thing. We'd get a group of people, up for a weekend, we'd do in training, and then keep our fingers crossed that it caught on, There was an involvement that we had in the archdiocese and the diocesan level with regional events. The youth ministers from Northern California, we gathered monthly, and then regularly with the whole region, and sponsored some different, leadership formation projects. Emmaus, the Emmaus Youth Ministry Training Program, we ran for a number of years up at St. Vincent's in Marin County.
But wasn't it wonderful? With the liturgy office, we did the same. We would meet locally and then the region particularly, and some very fine friendships were made.
Oh, yeah. Well, my daughter's godfather was a close friend of mine that I met in Phoenix, and we became best friends. He's retiring from teaching at Santa Clara University in another few weeks, and so, he and his wife moved to the area here. But yeah, I mean, that's just one close relationship that still continues today. But the difference, with the parish in my mind was just ongoing. It wasn't, hit and run or
much more community.
Yeah, there was much more community involvement. Obviously, moving back for me to St. Justin's was special because it was going home. I mean, there were still, some people there, though not as many, that still call me Joey because they remembered me when I went to school
Joey
there.
Bauer.
Yeah, exactly.
I love it.
So, and so I've been very fortunate, to not only be involved at St. Justin's, but to be paid to be a minister at St. Justin's. I just count my blessings.
And your ministry evolved too, right? You took on and
I
became
moved
a pastoral associate.
Yeah, pastoral associate was my title. I actually moved away from youth ministry, and that became more under the umbrella of catechetical ministry at St. Justin's. As far as confirmation prep and youth formation and things like that. And I moved into community ministry, which was the outreach arm of the parish, and that's been just so challenging but so rewarding.
Really,
over the years. Yeah, we started. In fact, you mentioned Dorothy Carlson. We can talk more about Dorothy and her minister of parish life.
I wanted to ask you about that too.
Yeah, we'll get to that. But her aunt and mother, in '89, were both volunteers in community ministry.
All right. Well, I remember her mom.
Yeah. And at
Dorothy
that point in
Hughes.
time, Dorothy Hughes, and at that point in time, we were serving food assistance to about 50 people a month.
All right.
And Marge would roll over in her grave today to find out that we rose as high as 3,000, a little over 3,000 people a month that we were providing food assistance. Yeah, it's gone down now. We're probably somewhere around 2,400 people a month.
That's still a lot of people.
Yeah, it's still a lot, but part of what's happened in Santa Clara is people can't afford to live there. So they're moving away to places, Central Valley and other places where they can.
buy a house or rent a house.
survive a little better.
Exactly.
Excuse me.
But then you were also involved with facilities, right?
Yeah, and that's the other thing that, besides the outreach, and, we have the food pantry, we have meal teams that go out to San Jose Family Shelter, we do senior citizen dinners. St. Justin's has operated a thrift store for years. Excuse me. And we provide vouchers for people to go shop in the thrift store. We give out bus passes, and there's a number of things that fall under that umbrella. The other umbrella that they asked me to take on was the facilities. And, it's a 60-some-year-old church now, and so there were issues that needed to take place. And I'm sort of proud of, everything that we've accomplished over the years. I mean, we've renovated our church. We just completed a whole new painting project of the whole facility, basically.
Oh, wonderful.
We just, actually, it's not even quite finished yet. Re-landscaped, put brand new walkways and paver stone walkways and stuff around the church, and even in Father Chris's backyard, we're reconditioning that so it can actually be used again. I mean, it was a mess. So,
well, that's great stewardship.
Yeah, and people, they like to see, the place looking good.
Sure.
And St. Justin's is a very generous parish. There was one time in the history of community ministry where, like in August, I felt like our bank account was dwindling to the point we were buying more food than we are now because we get a whole lot more from the food bank. And, I put the call out, middle of August when, many people are not even around, saying, our savings account is down to about $3,000-4,000. Well, in 2 weeks, it was up to $20-some thousand.
Wow.
And it was just people that, they'd see me in the parking lot, start handing me money. So, and it's that kind of generosity that, that I've observed from the place forever.
Is it a very stable parish?
Oh, yeah,
people
I believe
don't
so.
move out. I mean,
it is, and it's very multicultural now too. Not as multicultural as you'll find in like inner city parish,
the east side.
East side, right? But it is. We have a school that's almost full.
All right.
I mean, they struggle with some classes, some years, but overall, it's basically a full school. The collections are good. The diocese is always happy that we meet our ADA.
Yeah, right.
So,
which is finally over for this year.
for this year. And actually, we go over the top with the ADA because we always add to it, maintenance monies, and we make that too. So
wonderful.
Yeah. So, but yeah, no, St. Justin's has been a great place, still is.
So let's talk a little bit about Dorothy and minister of parish life.
Yeah, well, Dorothy and I have great history. I mean, when the diocese was formed, Sister Marcella Fabian was the director of religious ed.
Right.
I mean, at some point, Dorothy came into that job, not the director, but the associate director, assistant director, whatever we were called at the time.
Because I was associate in liturgy and she in catechetics.
Right, and so that's when I first met Dorothy. And then we reconnected when, I came over back to St. Justin's. And really, first of all, because of her aunt and mother, because they were so involved in community ministry. But then at some point, our staff has been mobile, except for me. I mean, I've seen many, people come and go. Fran Bowen, Pat King, I can just remember.
Oh, Pat King.
Oh, yeah.
She was wonderful.
Oh, her son and I went to school together.
Did you really?
Yeah, in that first class at St. Justin's. And then many others that, followed suit. But Dorothy eventually came on board as the director of catechetical ministry. And her office was right across the hall from me. And so, we were in the old section, our parish offices is the old convent. We were in the section, that was sort of separated out for the novices or something like that, or people, women that were,
not fully in.
Yeah, not in yet. There was even a lock on the door that kept them out of the main part of the convent. But Dorothy and I just developed a great friendship. We had, worked under a few different pastors. Joe Galang, Father Joe Galang was pastor there for many years. And Dorothy and I were asked at one point when Joe went on a sabbatical to be the co-administrators of the parish. And we did it, and we had fun with it. I think we had too much fun because Joe Galen came back a month early thinking that we were doing too good or something. But, and then years later when, we talked, off camera about Father Chris Bransfield, I knew that he, had interest in being our pastor. And, for me, that's special. I rather have somebody that really wants to be there than, is,
kicking and screaming.
Yeah, exactly. But then, when, I forget his name, that got sick at St. Martin's of San Jose. Anyway, Chris went to St. Martin's as the pastor.
That's right.
And it was sort of midstream that he went in and basically took himself out of the running for St. Justin's. And then
I think
that's
it was
when
Father
Richie.
Jack Bonser, wasn't it?
Jack Bonser.
Yeah.
It was Jack Bonser, yeah. And so, we ended up with, probably the pastor that I've had the most fun with ever, and that's Richie Buesa.
Oh, yes.
Richie came to us.
And that was his first pastorate, I think.
Yeah, very first. We
There is
thought we
something
would have
special.
him. Yeah, we thought we would have him for 6 years, and they stole them away
I
from
know,
us.
they do that sometimes.
And so at that point in time, that's when the decision was made for Dorothy to come on as minister of parish life. And I knew, everybody knew that the Bishop mcgraw was wanting to see minister of parish life succeed.
And very supportive.
Oh, very supportive. Then they're still very close friends. But, and I was thrilled. I mean, at one point, we had talked about, possibly doing it together like we had done before. And that just wasn't in the cards. Dorothy, admittedly is a whole lot more politically correct than I am. I speak out much more than I should sometimes. And so, I was thrilled. I told Dorothy when her and Richie came into my office to tell me what was going on, and I looked at Dorothy, I says, I'll be your sergeant of arms. I'll have your back.
That's right.
I mean, I wasn't upset with it. It was great. And we had great years. Although I knew her coming in that she wasn't thinking of staying 6 years.
No, she said she made that clear to the bishop from
I
the
mean,
get-go.
as much as he wanted that in writing and and all that, that's all fine and good. But and then Lance, her husband's a great guy, but
When he was retired.
he was retired. They had things that they wanted to do, and so she did her 3 years and out, and they were great 3 years. And then at that point, there was the changes of Los Altos and all that, and so Chris Bransfield was available and ours, and so he's ours.
He is a wonderful preacher. I
there
really like his
There's
homilies.
2 parishioners that went after him and said, "You have to preach longer."
Oh yeah, he's very
Because
succinct.
he's brief and to the point, and I'm looking and saying, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah, this is good.
I know, and you leave with a point that you can understand. No, I enjoy his homilies a lot.
Yeah, that's good.
And he is a good preacher.
What do you see, Joe, just to the future of the diocese? We've come 37, 38 years.
Oh boy, I can't believe it.
No, somehow I can't either. It's a very different church now from when we
for
first got started,
Oh, yeah,
which
for
it
sure.
would be. I mean, we've got more
Yeah.
parishes. It's just,
The one thing that I've always appreciated about our diocese is the commitment to lay leadership.
yeah.
And it's
Bishop Dumaine was just very firm about that.
yeah, and women's role in the church is strong. It's not subservient. It's strong.
Yeah.
Lay people. The fact that the ILM, exists and is sustaining itself.
20 years.
I know, and I think that's amazing, and that speaks highly of the diocese and the priorities. I remember going through some of those torturous meetings where we were trying to come up with mission statements and all that. And torturous meaning that was just hard, not that it wasn't valuable.
No, it was valuable, but it was forever.
Oh yeah, boy. But when mission statements were, formed, they were, there's follow through. we've had great people in diocesan positions over the years, even from the very beginning. And I think back on some of them that have passed away and say, God, what a loss.
Yeah. Yeah, I think of Sister Claude and Sister Pat
Claude.
Murray,
Oh, yeah, no,
Linda Berry.
Linda,
Yeah,
oh, no.
just some
I
great...
told Linda Berry one time, this is the only reason I give to the ADA is because of you. But, the commitment to, leadership is still there, I think. It's different. Diocesan offices aren't what we were when I was there, and what, not just me, but, the other offices that I was involved with are different now. I don't know if the priorities have changed. I don't think they're bad, but it's just different.
Yeah.
And that's just growing pains, I'm sure.
Well, and Santa Clara County has changed.
That's the truth.
At the
It's just
beginning,
grown up.
Silicon Valley was not really, on the radar.
No, that's true.
Yeah.
That's very true. But the commitment to leadership is still present and still needed. It warms my heart to see the multicultural trends followed. ILM is not just me, a white guy.
No.
It's a blend, and it's a blend that makes sense. That it forms. It's what our diocese is. And
And of course, we'll be facing a turning point fairly soon when the second bishop of San Jose retires. I keep thinking, please let us be lucky the third time as well.
I know, for sure. Yeah, because mcgraw, he has been wonderful.
Yes. Well, we've had two good bishops.
I know.
How blessed are we?
No, two different, certainly different personalities,
yes.
but both needed at the time, I think.
And both have great respect for one another.
Oh yeah, no.
Which is really
and
lovely.
you can sense that.
Yeah.
So.
Challenges that we face, what do you think? There's always dollars. But
Yeah. See, for me though, I come from St. Justin's where, the finances have never been the biggest issue.
That's great.
It's very fortunate where I know the other parishes that,
Struggle.
schools that are closing, Kathy Amazol is one of my closest friends. She left me. She was the principal at St. Justin's when I started.
Oh, and she left you.
And then they hauled her off to Sister Claude. I never forgave her for that part. But
and
they
Sister
brought her.
Claude always got her way.
She took Kathy away, brought her over to St. Clair's, where Kathy, basically did a job of saving St. Clair's. So now Kathy's retiring, I'm retiring. So.
I know, I'm retired. It's really rather amazing. Dorothy's retired.
I know. So. The one thing about us old retired folk is that we don't leave. We still hook in.
And we love our diocese.
Yeah, we love our diocese, we love our parishes. It's a whole different thing. Father Richie Bueza just named vocation director.
Yes.
I wrote to him a letter in jest saying, well, I'm retiring now. Maybe you could work it out for me to become a priest, He wrote back just laughing.
I wonder how he's feeling about leaving parish work.
His comment to me was, I don't know what mcgraw's thinking. But I bet he doesn't leave anyway.
I bet he doesn't either. He'll keep a hand in. Yeah.
I did have so much fun with him.
He's good people.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, he really is. He is it was always I always found him very supportive.
Oh, yeah. The very first staff meeting he walked in the room, he came and sat right down next to me and says, hey friend, I don't even know you.
Who are you?
Yeah, no, but we struck up a great relationship. He knew that I would be really sad when he left, and I was, but then, then I ended up with Dorothy, and so it all balanced out.
Well, it's one of the things we do learn. Pastors come and pastors go.
Oh yeah.
And we stay.
Sure. Yeah, exactly. It will be interesting to see who the next bishop will be.
Well, I hope he realizes what a great place he's inheriting.
Well, exactly. Yeah, and he would have to.
Yeah.
So.
Definitely. So what else should we be talking about? We kind of covered a whole range of.
Yeah, it's been great. I think I think St. Justin's, I feel like they gave me the groundwork to do what I did. I was given an award by the Mission City Community Fund a couple months ago.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah, it was very nice. It was an honor that I certainly didn't expect. But,
lovely.
the one thing that I said at the gathering when I got this award was that, I do what I do because, early on I felt like it was what I was supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly with all my involvement in archdiocese and diocesan work, I had every religious order after me.
Well, I can imagine.
Christian Brothers, Marianists, Jesuits not so much because I went to MIDI, but and our own seminary.
Sure.
I mean, I was getting.
Well, I imagine Jerry Brown probably was thinking.
Yeah, but I never felt like that was where I had to be.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like as a layperson, I was given every opportunity to minister within the church in a way that made sense to me.
And made a difference.
I was the youngest youth director at one of the national board directors.
I believe it.
Father Pete Armstrong hauled me up to Seattle, and I'm in this room with all these, directors of CYO from around the nation that are all old priests.
And there you are, this young
And then
layman.
there's me, and that's my buddy John Farnsworth. I met him at this second or third conference because finally the guy from Denver brought somebody young with him too. So that's how we met. But and then everything started transpiring. I remember the vision to teach as Jesus. That document that came out in the 70s, that was something that was simple enough for my mind to grasp onto. And I still talk about it today. On some occasions, if it comes up, to teach as Jesus. That's what we're called to do.
That's right.
The vision of youth ministry, I was involved when that was being written. So for me, I was always had the opportunity to be involved in something new, forefront. St. Justin's School, Midi High School.
And always with meaning.
Yeah.
Things with meaning.
Moving from teen club to, this other concept called youth ministry, having to connect that with, religious ed, Terry Sullivan, Bernardo Sharkey, all these people. We used to get together often to try to hash out, what does this mean?
Yeah. How do we do this? Yeah.
And we did it, we weren't afraid of it.
No, there was a kind of a can-do.
Oh yeah, I know, for sure. So I feel lucky, always feel lucky.
Well, you've also been a real blessing to the diocese. And especially, I think, as a lay man, that's the one thing I get concerned about is, we have clergy, we have strong lay women. We don't have that many lay men involved. So you've served as a real model.
Well, fortunately, we talk finances, the parish and the diocese were able to, give me a salary that I could, sustain myself on. I didn't get rich, but
well, nobody does working for church.
The only committee that I stayed on after I left the diocese was the lay pension board. I'm still on that.
Element of self-interest here.
Fran Cilia, he was, just a few months younger than me, and he reminds me that I'm the old man.
Of course he does.
But Fran's another priest that I highly respect, and I've been involved with for many years, and
he's made great contributions.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. But we're on that lay pension board together, and
how fun!
I tell him, comic relief. That's the only reason I go. I mean, I can't add much, but I'm there. So.
That's great.
Anyway.
Well, I am so grateful to you for taking this time. And it's been just
pleasure.
Fun, kind of going down memory lane.
My pleasure. Yeah. And now, as I drive away, I'll think of all these other stories.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, we'll just have to do it again.
Yeah. There you go.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
All
Thank
right.
you. Appreciate it.